Welcome to our panel session in our speaker corner here at Anuga Food Technology Fairtrade. I'm Natalia Mesa, and I'm very happy to be here to discuss about the heat pump technology and the industrial scale electrification. And this is the ideal location to speak about how important it is in the industrial sector, especially in food and drink sector, because it has this sector has the potential to be a leader in energy efficiency. So, but before to move on and to the speaker panel, because we have today speakers who will tell us about this technology. So we have 5 interesting speakers. We have a keynote lecture that Dr. Tatjana Ruhl has prepared for us. But let me introduce Dr. Tatjana Ruhl. She is head of decarbonisation of industry at DENEFF. DENEFF is also a partner with European Climate Foundation. DENEFF is Deutsche Unternehmensinitiative Energieeffizienz, and we also have as a partner European Heat Pump Association. And Dr. Tatjana Ruhl has been responsible for decarbonisation in the industry since 2021. She holds a PhD in energy efficiency policy from the Freie Universität Berlin. And also, she has involved in energy efficiency her entire career, first at the Ministry of Economics and Environment of the states of Sachsen-Anhalt in Germany, and later at energy service provider Will Be Energy. Dr. Ruhl is also privately involved with Science for the Future. So please welcome Dr. Tatjana Ruhl. She will present this keynote, so an applause, please.
Yeah, welcome. I'm very proud to present today and to tell you why this is so important that we address energy efficiency and energy efficient processes in the food and drink sector. So, when we look at our primary energy consumption, that is what we have to look at if we want to become climate neutral. In Germany, we want to become climate neutral by 2045, and this is mainly an energy topic. So, if you take all the studies together from different institutions, then you come to the point that in 2045, we will only use half of the primary energy that we have used today or in the past. So we have to save half of our energy use, and the other half will be provided by renewable energy, more or less. So we assume, and most studies do, that renewable electricity will become the new standard primary energy source, and as a scarce resource, because as we see, we have to save a lot of it, we must use it as efficiently as possible and prevent conversion losses. On this meta level, I also want to take a look at one common misperception. So that is, by becoming climate neutral, we will use more energy because we use more electricity. All in all, we saw that we have to use less energy in 2045, half of it. But while reducing our energy use, with the share of electricity, that is the orange pile here, this single pile, this one, becomes bigger. But the whole pile reduces a lot in primary energy consumption and in end energy use. So here we are talking today about heat transformation. And that is one thing that has been overlooked by politics for quite a long time. We know about heat transformation in buildings. And of course, we have looked at climate transformation of industry somehow, but mostly about decarbonizing processes. But heat process heat in industry has such a big share of our industrial energy use that it just can't be overlooked if we want to reach those energy efficiency goals I just showed you a minute ago. So if you have a look at it, then process heat accounts for a quarter of Germany's final energy consumption. And it is as much as we use for heating of buildings. So half of our energy use in Germany is heat, and half of this is heat use in industry. And this is still mainly fossil. And also a big share of our gas use, all in all. So when switching to climate-friendly process heat, which each and every company will have to do within the next years or decades, then it is important to avoid long-term lock-ins in inefficient technologies, because then, as you remember the first slide, we will not see this primary energy use go down as we need it, because we need it to be halved. Yeah, the good news is that there are energy efficient ways to provide process heat, and there are clear trends for energy efficiency in climate neutral heat provision. So I took here graphics from an Agora industry study from 2 years ago, and if you look at it, you see that from 1 kilowatt hour renewable electricity input from hydrogen, you get much less output than from 1 kilowatt hour renewable electricity input if you take a heat pump. And of course, the appropriate choice of technology remains individual, but you see there are clear trends. And yeah, the case is that direct electric solutions will, in most cases, be the energy efficient one, as well as hydrogen solutions won't. A new study by Agora Energiewende, which will be out in just a month of time, shows that direct electrification is possible across most temperature ranges. So here for food and beverage industry, it is easiest to abate. So because temperature levels are quite low, food and beverage industry is up to 200, 250, 300 degrees. But even if you're a steel producer or glass producer, you can do this via direct electrification, and this is still the most energy efficient option. And the study that we will see published next month says that it's a whole of 90% of industry's current heat demand of today provided by fossil fuels that can be substituted by electric solutions. Of course, there are some obstacles, and we need a suitable framework, but this will be the topic of our discussion. I've just brought the main 3 barriers that were identified by the Agora study, and this is one technical issue, because of course you need to have this electricity to come on your very premises of your industrial site. Of course, electricity prices and grid charges play a role. And as companies don't really know how electricity prices and the whole regulatory framework develops, it's not so easy to take a decision today. But this is what we have to make possible by good policy framework, and this is also a thing we want to discuss later on. So for now, I've been talking about how to tackle this primary energy efficiency questions or process heat generation. But there's also another energy efficiency question in process heat, and this is the question if you need the energy in the first place, so the question of end energy use. We can here have a look also on the metadata. If you look at the same studies as I did on the first slide, they also say something about industrial energy use as a whole and how it will develop. And what many people don't know is that also for industry, the energy use is going down absolutely. They're not only becoming more energy efficient, but German industry will in 2045 use only 80% of the energy they're using today, but producing more. There's still room in those calculations for growth. But these 20% of energy efficiency gains will not happen on its own. This also needs a regulatory framework, because we looked into this deeper in a study, and it's only this green share of energy efficiency potentials that are close to markets, so 3 years payback time. But the orange share here, this is still economic potential, but with longer payback times. And this is what companies normally don't do. But the amazing thing is, if you look at the whole circle, this is industrial energy use, that nearly half of industrial energy use can be saved in an economic way. And the bulk of it actually is process heat. 30% of industry's total final energy demand could be saved through economical process heating measures alone. So this is still only the end energy level. And of course, if you get your demand down, and then in the next step also get energy efficient provision of this reduced process heat, then our climate targets will be self-fulfilling. So that's it. Thank you very much. And
thank you very much, Dr. Tatjana Ruhl. That was very interesting, very informative. I would like to invite our speakers today. Please to take a seat. We will have approximately 45 minutes discussion, and the idea is at the end of the panel discussion, if you have questions, comments, you want to provide insights, experiences, it will be nice, okay? So, but first we will start with the panel discussion, and I would also like to introduce our speakers today, because as I already did with Dr. Tatjana Ruhl, we also have Jozefien Vanbecelaere. I don't know if I did it right, but she's head of European Union Affairs at the European Heat Pump Association. She worked for 4 years at the Organization for Sustainable Energy, the Flemish Heat Pump Association. And Jozefien has a master's degree from the College of Europe in Bruges, where she studied European political and administrative studies. She also has a master's in international relations and diplomacy, and a master's in German and Scandinavian linguistics and literature. Wow, willkommen, thank you. We also have Marek Fritz. Hello, Marek. Marek has worked at the Institut for Energy and Environment, BFE, as a business development consultant and chair of regulatory change management since 2023. He focuses on analyzing new laws and regulations and implementing them in practice. Mr. Fritz holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology in Germany. Willkommen, Marek. And we also have Jill Zaluszkiewicz. I don't know if I'm not good with the last name, but I think it's right. Okay, she's project manager for industry and production with a focus on climate-neutral process heat at Energy4Climate in the North Rhine-Westphalia region, Germany. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Biotechnology at the Technische Universität Braunschweig and a Master of Science in Sustainable Energy Engineering from the same university. So, well, welcome, Dr. Tatjana Ruhl, Marek, Jill, Jozefien. It's really nice to be here to discuss about a topic which concerns us all, you know, like it's really on the application of these technologies and the impact. So we can start with the first question. I don't know if you want to answer, but it will be like a general question, which will be why is it crucial for industries to participate in the decarbonizing processes especially in Germany, a highly industrialized country with an ambitious goal, which is to become climate neutral by 2045. I don't know who wants to answer the first question.
I can answer. Sorry, the microphone sounded first. It's very important because about 20% of the final energy in Germany go towards the industrial sector, and especially process heat makes up about 20% of the final energy, and about 70% of the process heat is still from fossil fuels. So we have this huge amount of energy that is still supplied with coal and gas that has to be transformed. And if we don't use this opportunity, we won't be able to make the transformation in Germany happen.
Mm-hmm. Marek, would you like to?
Yes, well, I can confirm what you just said, and I think it is really crucial for German industries and also the food and beverage industry to address this challenge within a short time period, because to achieve developments, we will need the time to really move forward. Decarbonization is a really ambitious challenge, and we need to start now to make it happen until at least 2045.
Yeah, but it's not only a challenge. Of course, it's not happening on its own, but it's also a very good opportunity for companies to become competitive, because all over the world, companies are facing this challenge, and the first movers will be rewarded in it. And as we are a highly industrialized country, our welfare is more or less dependent on how fast and how successful German companies decarbonize themselves and obviously also their process heat.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about decarbonization, because it's an important transition. What decarbonization potential does process heat offer?
Maybe I can, from a European angle, so we know that 37% of European industrial heat demand is below 200 degrees. So all that can be done with heat pumps. So that's really a very big potential, and there's only a fraction of that is currently being used. So that's already one element to take up in the discussion, I think.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're not a steel producer or cement producer and your main CO2 task is to get CO2 out of your process itself, then all other companies have process heat as their biggest source of CO2, because that's where all the fossil fuels go. And so obviously it is crucial for CO2 emissions to go down that we tackle this process heat question.
Mm-hmm. And also we are here at Anuga Food Technology Fairtrade, and I'm just asking myself why food and drinks sector is so relevant, what does the food and drinks sector come in? So if there is any specific challenge or advantage compared with other sectors?
Yeah, so it's again, I think really it has to do with these temperature levels. It was also mentioned before. So what I said is below 200 degrees or even lower are these temperatures that can easily be electrified. In the food sector, you have a lot of drying processes, cooling processes, distilleries, breweries, these type of, where you have heating and cooling a lot also combined, because everywhere where you have cooling, you have also excess heat, because at the back of your fridge, there's heat coming out. So this heat can be used again as a source for another part of the process. So, for example, one of our members, so at the European Heat Pump Association, we have heat pump manufacturers as members. One of them, was asked by a chocolate producer to install a heat pump just to heat their offices and so on. And then they arrived at the factory and they said, but what about your processes? I think we could help there as well. So they said, yeah, we have some ovens or melting, heating part there. And they said, but yeah, and there you have a lot of cooling needs. So you could put these together. So it's really something, yeah, that is so recurrent everywhere in the food and drink industry, but that is not yet known enough that these two can be, that you can close an energy cycle by really bringing together this heating and cooling and reach much higher efficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could add the advantage compared, for example, to high energy industries like steel, for example, where it's way more expensive and difficult to electrify. The food industry could be like the first industry, for example, to completely electrify because they have the possibility, because they don't work in these energy-dense conditions.
Yes, I would like to add that not only is the food industry often a really good one for heat pumps because of the relatively low process temperatures, but what also might be a decarbonization option is to use a waste biomass that in many food processes occurs. So you have various decarbonization options, and especially the heat pump, which fits the processes very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is that you don't only have so many available technological options even today, but it's the most economic ones. So in these temperature levels and with the conversion from electricity to heat in the heat pumps that you need, this makes it much cheaper to electrify than in other temperature levels. And so many companies could start today with an economic case of decarbonizing their process heat.
Yeah, and what about the companies, the small companies or the customers? They change. I mean, the in terms of investment, when they want to invest, for example, they want to do it now or they want to do in the future, considering this this price benefit that they have, like compared with other technologies.
This is probably a question
Yes.
for you.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, first of all, I would like to highlight that the investment decision process regarding for mostly all decarbonization options, but especially heat pumps, is way more complex than for fossil fuels. So before a company decides to really invest in heat pumps or electrification of its process heat, there needs to be a real tailor-made assessment of the individual waste heat resources, of the process temperatures, maybe process adjustments to have a good solution. But once we arrive at this good solution and we can have an economic case, which is possible, then companies are willing right now to invest in this case.
Mm-hmm. But are customers more aware about this importance of become climate neutral, zero emissions? What will you say?
Yes, I think so, for sure. And the food and drink industry has a direct connection to end customers, and therefore it is also an important publicity aspect in becoming a first mover.
Yeah, actually, when we saw interest rise immensely in these topics was when energy prices rose or soared, actually, 2 years ago. And that was the time when many companies started thinking about, is there something else than fossil fuels? Is there something else than fossil gas? Because it was so expensive at this point of time. And then it just came to their mind, okay, right, I remember there's this climate neutrality change challenge anyway. I anyway have to do something about that. And this is when they started really thinking about it. But yeah, as Marek put it, you won't change your process heat overnight. But 1 or 2 years' time are just a good time for preparation. So we see many companies start now, and this is the first movers who have the advantage. And I can only encourage all other companies to follow them and make their decarbonisation pathways, make up their mind how their process heat will look like in 2, 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, I can also add that indeed after the Russian invasion into Ukraine, we really saw this boom in heat pump demand and uptake. And this is really from a general perspective, not only the industrial heat pumps, but also at the residential level. I think you all also have noticed, specifically also here in Germany, suddenly heat pumps were a topic that was also discussed maybe among friends or at dinner tables, where before it was more geeky or more for certain people who were already interested. So it's really because of these high gas prices that people started thinking, okay, let's look at alternatives. Also, how can we maybe contribute to be less dependent on Russian fossil fuels? And indeed, on industrial heat pumps in specific, we always had within our association some activity on it. We gather the manufacturers, but really since then we have seen a lot of requests also from research, from press and media, a lot of additional members joining, and also a lot more of the possible end consumers, a lot more factories and big clients that approached us of how can we get in contact with these manufacturers, how can we put this in place. So you really see much more interest in the...
But that was one step. And then what about politics? Because you say like dependence. I think there are some barriers. Could you maybe tell us about how it works in the European Union?
Yeah, so indeed, but I think the barriers we have maybe because I'm now at the booth where we have seen many discussions already previously today. But the barriers are quite clear. So this electricity to gas price ratio, that's a key barrier. As long as you have cheaper fossil fuel options, it will always be the easiest option, and people will always look at the costs in the end. So we really need to fix that. We have also a map of how this spark spread is in the different European countries. And you see, for example, in Belgium, but also in Germany, it's above 3. In Belgium, it's 3.8. I think in Germany also around that level. I don't know exactly. In the Netherlands, for example, it's only 2. And there you see that your return on investment for a heat pump is a few years, where in Belgium it's then over 10 years. So it really makes a big difference to have a good electricity to gas price ratio. In general, we advise to not have an electricity bill that is more than double the gas bill to see a quick enough return on your investment. But then to turn to the political level and how that is tackled at European level, it's very tricky you have now a directive which is being discussed, the energy taxation directive, but this is very difficult because taxation is often a national a national competence, and at European level to change something on these things you need unanimity, so you need all 27 member states to agree. So it's very, very difficult. So now we really go back to the national level and then count really on national politics to fix this. And a lot of them are aware that this needs to be fixed, but then to do it in practice, it seems it's very slow. Like it's not really, One of the examples we can give, for example, is in Italy, you have all the costs for the broadcasting, for the television, they are all put on the electricity bill, for example. So a lot of extra costs, a lot of taxes and levies are added on the electricity bill, which is not being done on the gas bill. So these should be shifted away from the electricity bill to make this more balanced. Of course, also having a carbon price on fossil fuels helps. You have many of these things that could add in this balance. This is only one barrier that I highlighted, but we can add more, of course.
I would agree. I think we can basically put it into like 3 areas: technical barriers, which can be mostly overcome in the future, then the economic barriers you talked about, and then organizational barriers. I think another big organizational barrier is uncertainty, which results from the economic and political barriers, because if the companies don't have security regarding how much electricity will be in the future and how much gas will be, they are scared and the decision makers are not really sure about what to do. I saw exactly what you talked about in a different kind of environment, but it was also about electrifying some ovens. And in the crisis, they wanted to buy electric ovens, but then when the electricity prices, the gas prices went down again, they decided against it and bought the gas ovens. And another thing is, regarding the infrastructure, some machines, like the lifespans, are decades long, and they won't buy a new machine or a new manufacturing device during the lifespan of the device. So the window to buy something new and to electrify can be very small, and and the conditions have to be right in this precise moment.
Mm-hmm. I find it really amazing that it's still so, or in the view of companies, is still so unsure how political frameworks will develop, because we already know today that in Germany 2045 and in the European Union 2050 we will be climate neutral. So in 2045 and 2050 no one will use fossil gas for their process heat. And obviously, if we have these goals and if we want these goals to happen, then there will be policy instruments, to shape it that way. And so it can't be the economic decision to buy a new fossil burner. I believe it's the task for policy to make this. For politics to make this crystal clear that they are really pursuing their goals, and there will be policy instruments that will lead to these goals. And then, the whole economic discussion will vanish in a minute.
I would like to react on that. Indeed, in the long term, it's all very clear, but then we see in the short term that policymakers still change very often. So we had there was a heat pump action plan that was being prepared by the European Commission. They have worked on this for a year, and then right before Christmas, last Christmas, they announced, okay, we will postpone this until after the elections, and then it's up to the next European Commission to see what to do with this. So this was really, again, this, up and down of, saying one thing and promising things to the sector at one stage, and then a few months later changing their mind. So all this doesn't help. Even though we know by 2050 we have to get there, it's still in the shorter term. There's a lot of volatility and changes. You also see, for example, subsidy schemes changing. You have this in Germany, for example, in Italy as well. So things changing very often. This doesn't help. This doesn't give confidence, not to the investors, not to the manufacturers, to the citizens. It's just you need, indeed, this long-term clear policy signal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Actually, if you look, for example, at the CO2 prices, there's only one sane way for them, and this is up. Mm-hmm. So this is the only way they can go if politics wants to reach the goals.
Mm-hmm. Marek?
Yes. Well, I think I totally agree with you that the uncertainty is an important barrier. But still, I think we are in a transformation process, and regulations adapting now and then to developments within society especially is something we can reduce, but we cannot totally mitigate it. So I think we need to find ways to deal with this uncertainty.
A good strategy. But and in terms of a strategy, is this an individual strategy, or will be more like a larger decarbonization strategy? What will you think? Because we see every country has different projects, in terms of heat pump technology or industrial scale electrification. Will you say there is a larger decarbonization strategy in the European Union?
Well, you have targets, of course, at EU level. So you have now an energy efficiency directive that has been revised, a renewable energy directive. So all of these set long-term targets, but of course it's directives, which means that these still have to be implemented at national level, and then every member state, can still tweak and implement with some flexibility on how they do it. So it's a combination of both, and then of course, it depends a lot. I would say, especially in industry, on the company by company, process by process. So, I really think it's a combination of both.
There are different regulatory fields. For example, the ETS, the European Emission Trading System, is quite European. So, of course, you have some national transposition, but more or less it's a European thing. Or, for example, eco-design, which also applies for one or the other industrial appliance, is also very European thing, where you won't see much variation in the countries. But of course, like all the other policies coming after energy audits and energy management systems, of course, there's much room for national experiments. The good ones and the bad ones.
Maybe also on the project level. So you have a lot of European projects. Also, we at the EHPA, we are involved in 14 of such projects. A lot of them are in research and innovation and in demonstration projects. But then, it's really working together with national partners, national energy agencies, also manufacturers, but also, these pilot projects, these demonstration sites where actually manufacturers implement these innovations and then see what works best. So there it's starting from a European framework, but then looking at the national level again. So it's both levels.
And national level, we are here in Germany, Nordrhein-Westfalen. I will ask you, Jill, because you work for a company based in Dortmund, Nordrhein-Westfalen. So how are companies in Nordrhein-Westfalen positioned in the area of decarbonizing, in process heat?
Maybe one short correction. My company is based in Düsseldorf, and we are a regional agency, and we basically work for the ministry in North Rhine-Westphalia, and we work together with the industry and also with the scientific institutions. And our goal is to transform the industry in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is a very big task. The landscape of companies is very heterogeneous. We have everything from chemical industry to steel and also small companies. We have big clusters where there are a lot of big companies, and then we have areas where hardly any companies. So it's a very big field. There's a lot of process heat that we have. And in North Rhine-Westphalia, we have, for example, the Industriepact, in which we try to find pathways for companies to transform. Where in this pact, for example, are also breweries, and eventually we want to help them to become climate neutral. There are several aspects apart from electrification, especially in the lower temperature area. Efficiency is the first step. Then the way to go would be renewable energies like geothermal energy or solar thermal energy, and then electrification, and eventually the processes that can't be electrified would use alternative energy sources like hydrogen. And we have a big chance in this state of transformation because we have so much industry and we want to keep it here, and that's what we're working for.
And in industry, how does the food industry stand out compared with other sectors?
I think we mentioned it earlier that the temperature levels are lower in the food industry, so it's way easier for electrification processes compared to melting steel, for example, where you need temperatures above 1,500 degrees. And there's also a lot of room for energy efficiency, for example. I think there are still, for example, sugar production that are using combined heat and power plants, which use or give out temperatures output temperatures about 500 degrees, whereas you would only need 80 degrees, and you could use heat pumps or boilers, which would be way more efficient. And yeah, one example.
Yeah, maybe I could add some points from our discussion with companies, especially from the food industry, but not only. So in our perspective, most of the companies have already understood that transformation is necessary, also regarding process heat. So many companies are keen to make a plan for the future. So in Germany, also there's this instrument, transformation plan, which is a publicly funded concept on how companies could reduce their GHG emissions. And on this level, many companies are willing to participate, are willing to change also. But when it comes to the implementation, there needs to be an economically viable case for the specific company and its processes. And right now, this is the point, I think, where we are standing very often. It is possible, but not very easy to find this economically viable solution.
Mm-hmm. Why is so complicated?
Well, first of all, compared to fossil fuel, the decarbonization technologies are more complex. As I just said before, you need to analyze your waste heat, etc. But there are also other barriers that we just tackled: uncertainty, electricity to gas price ratio, etc. One more barrier that I would like to add is the grid connection. So for electrification devices, it often is not so easy to get a grid connection from your electricity distribution or electricity grid operator, combined with relatively high grid fees. So I think those are the reasons why it's complicated.
And the last reason is luckily already addressed by politics, because grid planning is key to overcome the capacity problem. And now in this grid planning process, companies can at a very early stage of their planning raise their hand and say, I will need more electricity. And in the year when they really built the new process heat appliance, then the electricity will already be there. Mm-hmm. This is the best case, of course. But you can start early in this process, and you don't have to know exactly how much electricity you need. And if you don't need it in 5 years, then you won't have to buy it. So it's very important that companies who consider electrifying their process heat raise their hand now and tell their grid operator that they will need more electricity in the future.
Mm-hmm. I would like to react on that. I find it very interesting. So you actually say in Germany this is not such a big issue anymore.
It is an issue,
okay,
but they are addressing it in steps.
Because we hear at European level that it's really a big issue, and then we always give this counter argument that also electrification offers the potential of offering flexibility to the grid. So helping to reduce the need for additional investments because you can use your heat pumps flexibly. But this is in theory the case, but then to have this really in practice, you still need a lot of work on, for example, these network codes on how grid operators talk to the flexibility providers, how this is maybe aggregated and all these things. So there's still a lot of work to do there between all these different parties involved to actually make this work and valorize this flexibility.
Yeah, but the very important thing is that the ministry has understood that it needs a good grid planning and that we need it now. Yeah. And so they started this integrated process. This means don't wait until you know exactly how much electricity you will need. If you're really considering this option, then tell your grid operator, the sooner he knows, the sooner he can react.
Okay. Yeah, we have seen now at European level, we are getting more and more closer also to the distribution system operator and the transmission system operators also to take this into account into the planning, but it's still, early stage. It's so maybe there we can use Germany as an example. That's good.
What about the funding? Is the state funding help support to foster this technology, decarbonizing, electrifying the industry? Maybe.
Yes, what would you?
Yeah, I could give my own impression. So I can only speak like for the German situation on funding. In total, the funding situation is okay, I think. So there are measures to fund decarbonization and electrification of process heat. There's also this funded program for planning the transformation plan. Of course, you could always extend this landscape of public funding. And it would help to boost decarbonization of process heat, which would be useful. So we are not at full speed yet. That's why we can also discuss if there is more funding needed.
One thing I would like to add, what could be interesting for the industry, most funding programs now only fund the initial investment costs. But I've been talking to companies and they say the operational costs are 5 times higher than the investment costs. So they would need funding on that. Like this is mostly the critical reason why they don't invest in electrification. And then again, if the electricity prices wouldn't be that high, this wouldn't be a problem. So maybe it could be like a mix, like one funding the operation costs. And eventually, when electricity is cheaper, they won't need much funding anymore.
Funding, you also have quite a lot of funding schemes at EU level, but there it's many diverse types. So there, I think there's mainly need for a kind of one-stop shop, this typical buzzword, but an easy platform or way to navigate among all these funding opportunities, because as a company now it's difficult to do this alone and to know which type of funding scheme is good for me, how to access. You almost need quite some expertise, and also applying for these things so you need the help from a consultancy and other companies, so it can be simplified and really made easier to access, also the whole administrative process and so on. So on that part there's still room for improvement.
Just let's name the most important funding schemes in Germany so that interested companies can look them up. So we have 2 CapEx-oriented funding programs. This is mainly Energie- und Ressourceneffizienz in der Wirtschaft, EEW, administered by BAFA, where you can go even as a smaller company and get your CapEx funded. If you have bigger investments or you go for newer technologies, there's also another CapEx program, but it's not running at this time. It will be soon again. And then there's a new funding scheme for OPEX. So it's the Carbon Contracts for Difference, Klimaschutzverträge. It is meant for decarbonizing your processes, but as well as decarbonizing your process heat. And it will cover the additional costs of your climate neutral solution as compared to a normal one. And it will obviously mainly address the additional OPEX costs.
But
I
please.
would like to add to those contracts for difference. Yes, this is a good scheme, I think, to overcome many barriers. Anyways, in its current design, it is only focused on a limited number of companies, only really energy intensive companies, and you need to reduce really many emissions, like 10 kilotons of CO2 equivalent per year, which is a lot. So it's only for really big devices. And what I think would be useful is to extend those contracts for difference also to smaller companies.
Yeah, but I guess this is what they have in mind. It's a very new and outstanding funding scheme which has no predecessors. And so, there's much details and in it that you have to discuss with your funder. And this is the reason why they started with the big companies and got experience with this carbon contracts for difference. And I'm quite sure that over the years we will also see this trickle down and have the smaller companies also included.
Mm-hmm. So before we move to the questions, because it will be idea to have like a 10 minutes, or 5 minutes, I would like to ask just one last question. It's more about to raise awareness in electrification and decarbonizing. What will be your message to raise awareness that the people be more aware about this technology, how important it is to decrease the carbon emission, the carbon footprint, and to be climate neutral? What will be your message?
I would say a key is cooperation. Like as the European Heat Pump Association, we have a very close cooperation now with the Paper and Pulp Industry Association, where our manufacturers sit together with their engineers, look at how are the processes in those factories, what are the temperature levels, how can we really make heat pumps fit there. Now we will also start such a cooperation with the Food Drink Association at EU level, also to do the same again and to really have not only theoretical discussions, but actually matchmaking between manufacturers and then off-takers. And there's more and more interest to do this. So I think cooperation is key, and to exchange best practices and to work together.
I would also say one key is to understand that it's not only about being sustainable and doing the right thing, it's also that the transformation is vital for the industry to keep existing and also to be at the forefront of development. And so this should be the most logical goal to for the industry and also for the environment to transform and, for example, electrify.
Mm-hmm. Marek?
All right. My message is start planning on how to transform your company now. Although there are barriers that we discussed, it is sure that you will have to transform from fossil fuels, and you should start now to gain deep insight in your possibilities.
I can only stress that this is a question of competitiveness, and that you really have to make up your mind how to address this important journey and how to become a front runner and not a laggard behind. So,
And is Germany a front runner?
Germany as a whole, I'd say they're rather front runner. Not each and every company, but quite a lot of them. And they really, they're inventors and they like to try new things. And this is a good thing.
This is a good thing. Thank you very much. A warmly applause to our speakers, please. I don't know, we have enough time, maybe just for a couple of questions. 2 questions, please. Who wants to ask? Or maybe share something. It doesn't have to be a question. No one? Yeah?
Thanks. I was actually wondering, I mean, in the residential sector, we hear a lot that skill and like the skill gap is a barrier for like the rollout of heat pumps in residential application. I was wondering if for the industry that might be the case as well, if there might be the need to build, I don't know, technicians within companies, if there are even enough companies supplying this kind of solution to the industry. So, if a company looks outside, if there's an ecosystem where it can look at or not. This would be my question. Thanks.
Yeah, I can maybe start. I would say there's no lack of skills with the manufacturers of these technologies, which is maybe quite obvious because they are making them. But it's rather at the companies that want to implement or want to change that they are just do not have yet the expertise with these alternative technologies, with industrial heat pumps and so on. So there's a lot of awareness raising and skills and these pilot projects and best practices exchanges. That's very much needed. And also, the more and more you will see the projects, the more they will also learn from each other. But it's really rather in the existing, in the industries that want to implement, that there's still a lot more skills needed to actually implement. But there, I think, probably companies as the one of Marek help out.
Yes, maybe just a brief look inside. So, of course, companies also have to deal with a lack of skilled workers, but it is a challenge that we can deal with. And compared to the residential sector, I think the installing share in the total of the work to be done is less in industrial applications. So the problem is not that big.
Yeah, and we can be happy that this is a market. So if we see a constant and foreseeable demand, then of course supply will adjust. And if there's a shortage of labor within the companies, there can also be business models supporting these companies from within. So for example, you can go for an ESCO model and just buy the steam and don't have to install the whole thing yourself.
Is there more questions or comments? No? Well, then I would like to thank you, our panelists and our audience. I encourage you to continue the discussion, further the panel session. It will be nice maybe to explore cooperations, a partnership, or maybe to speak about the topic. So thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.